Welcome back, everyone. We are live once again with another AWE Digital Wellness podcast episode. This week, as always, I'm being joined by my colleague, Christian Dominique. Christian, how are you doing?
Good. I need a reset as a leader.
Yes.
Busy week.
And that is on the topic for today. We will be talking specifically about leadership qualities, what makes a good leader, how leadership is often related to internal regulation of emotions. And I think this will be a very interesting conversation, not only for leaders, but for people who are working at a company under a form of leadership that maybe doesn't make sense to them. Maybe we'll have them better understand why their leaders are acting a certain way. And I think this will be valuable for lots of people, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Thanks, Mark, and welcome to anyone who's joining live. As always, on Friday, you can leave questions or comments as we go along. The goal of today is to talk to leaders and about leaders and also about people working, and you can be a leader not only in an organization, you can be a leader in your family, you can be a leader in your life, in your community. So just people that have perhaps feel that they have to have a little bit more responsibility and stress and manage people. How can we conceptualize this to maybe, I think the goal to me as a leader is to have better clarity, calm, and perhaps even compassion when dealing with people. What are some of your initial thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think of one of the quotes of the psychologist from your country, from Canada, Jordan Peterson. He says that before you go out and try to fix the world, get your own house in order before you try to fix somebody else's house. And I think this is extremely applicable to leaders. If you want to be a leader of somebody else, if you want to manage other people, you have to learn how to manage yourself. If you don't learn how to manage yourself, your own impulses, your own emotions, you will have a very difficult time managing other people, and they will have a hard time following you if they see that you are not able to manage yourself, right? So get extremely good at something.
Well, a small example.
Go on.
Thanks, Mark. I was just thinking of a small example of, in many organizations, to the audience and to you, Mark, in a Teams meeting, who will you respect more? Someone who's calm or someone who's agitated and maybe confrontational?
Yeah. Exactly. I think people are attracted to, if there's a fire in in a room or in a theater and people are going crazy, and I think they will look to follow the person who is calm under pressure, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes, the best bodyguards are the people who stay calm under pressure, not the ones who are getting extremely agitated and aggressive when conflict arises. So they know how to manage their own emotions. And I'm sure anybody who's listening to this, who's been in a leadership role at a company, are quite aware that conflict is sometimes inevitable, right? Because if you're working at a company, you have people with a lot of different interests. Sometimes they don't align 100%. And how do you find an agreement, right, between those people? How do you empathize with a person who is extremely upset with perhaps a different opinion, a different view than your own, and you have to rationalize with them and you have to find agreement? That's one of the big topics that we're going to be covering today. Any thoughts on that, Christian, on particular leadership qualities that are highly necessary today?
Well, we talk a lot, we hear about the servant leadership mentality or approach, which I think is good. It's, you're here to serve, not just to dictate or to put your point across. We're trying to perhaps look at also consensus leadership, where we're trying to have most people on board with some ideas and that people can explain their differences and reach to a real consensus. That could be, not only internally, but externally when, as a leader, I'm negotiating with other companies as well. So when I'm in the negotiating table with partners or companies, to have like this common ground where, let's discuss what's going on without emotion or without ego or judgment of the other's point of view or stance or priorities, and try to find a common ground and consensus, right?
Absolutely. And I think, the definition of internal regulation, right? Emotional regulation is the ability to manage thoughts, to manage emotions, impulses, and stress responses, right? And a lot of this comes from CBT and neuroscience. So it's the ability to really see the thought the moment it arises and not impulsively react to it, right? If somebody says something that upsets you, right, you're getting more angry at the thought than you are at the person, the almost unconscious reaction that arises, right? So thoughts lead to feelings lead to behavior, and behavior often leads to specific results, right? Whether that's a negative result or a positive result, right? So this is why it's so important to get your own house in order before you manage that of others. And this is the backbone of leadership.
So one of the things that, for instance, we do on our digital reset is help regulate emotion, help regulate the nervous system. And also we have some specific reset for leaders, specific resets for clarity and oneness. Sign in to awedigitalwellness.com to get your free digital reset. I'm doing one every Tuesday, so come see me there. And we have some other offerings for the rest of the week and specialized reset depending on what you do. But one of the things that I try to do in the reset is to bring people clarity. We talked about CBT. We have psychological and neuroscience-based resets, which is, meditation, breath work, visualization. And we have some unique concept at awe, trying to bring awe to people, right? Awe, laughter, crying, goosebumps of happiness. And this other part of oneness, a part of the 7 biggest part of oneness is clarity, safety, as well as presence and connection in the moment, right? So when you're connected to the moment, you actually can regulate your emotions better because you see thoughts as thoughts. That's also part of CBT, and not identify to them. And you can start to have better judgment, because we know from neuroscience that the amygdala, the fear center, and emotional center, some emotions are good. Fear is not bad either. It's just an emotion, but it gives information of danger, right? So when you feel threatened, then you can be angry and develop hate and resentment towards yourself or colleagues, or blame and shame. But when you can remove that and see that as just information, then you actually allow your emotional limbic center to decrease, and you allow your prefrontal thinking center to have a better judgment, right? In philosophy, we will say that we don't want to have any judgment, but in reality, as a business leader, you have to make good and quick judgment, and that emotional regulation will be allowed to make better judgments.
And I don't think we're advocating for being devoid of emotions. It's not like if you meditate too much, then you just become like so stoic that you are impervious to any outside disturbance. Not at all. I think emotions are important when channeled the right way. One of the most famous leaders that people might be able to understand, right, that why he was such a good leader, is when we talk about Steve Jobs. Somebody like Steve Jobs, for example, he had a extremely compelling vision, right? A North Star that was so clear that others could see it, essentially. And he had a belief that technology could elevate human potential, right? And was not there just to compute. So his belief was that it was a certain conviction. And he was actually, contrary to what many people knew, he was a very emotional person. He often cried in meetings. And he had this emotional intensity that fueled him in what he did, right? But he was able to be selective at the same time about how to use that emotional intensity. We're not saying to just suppress all emotions necessarily, but you can channel them in a way that will help you get to your goals faster, right? A lot of people, leaders, they're fueled by the fear of failure, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fear that they could be homeless, that they could lose, right? That if they stop, we talked about this last week, if they take their foot off the gas pedal, that somebody could basically overtake them, right? And I think that a lot of people have become successful this way, but it's not the most compelling or even the most effective way to reach success or to reach your goals by that means. That example that I just said with Jobs, right? Yeah, you could argue that he was motivated by failure, but I think more than anything, he had this extremely strong desire. This because of this clear vision that he had, he was so excited by that North Star that he oriented himself towards every single day, that it acted as the fuel, the emotional fuel that helped him build Apple to what it became, right? And again, it's recognizing which emotions are useful and why do we have these emotions in the first place. Anxiety, for example, is not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's the way that we react to anxiety that makes it so bad, right? If we learn to avoid a certain behavior because we feel afraid or we feel fearful around it, that can become really negative. If we learn to, for example, somebody says something to you at your company and you don't like it, but you decide not to say anything because you're afraid of the consequences, right? That can cause a lot of resentment in you if you just hold on to it for longer and longer periods of time. So
or the opposite, if you say it, but you say it in a confrontational way, why did you
exactly
why is this happening, right?
Yeah, and it's
important. Understanding and doing active listening and using 100%. Empathy and compassion, right?
100%. It has to be in a very emotionally calibrated way. But I think the one thing that unites all these things is that people or leaders especially have to have a very clear understanding of where they want to go.
And just to come back to Steve Jobs, I have never been afraid or shy to share that I'm emotional, I'm intense. Most of my emotions are positive. I catch myself sometimes with some negative emotions, and then I can communicate and regulate them. But this week, I shared on the Slack channel that I was listening to actually one of your resets, Mark, and I cried. I cried of happiness. Like, it was beautiful the way you presented that content. And it was 25-minute reset, and I cried and I shared that, and it's positive, right? So we're allowed to have those emotions. We're not saying, and Stoicism doesn't say don't have emotion either. I'm quite a Stoic scholar, and we can talk at lengths of what the virtues of Stoicism are. And I think courage is one of them. That's amazing. Wisdom is another one, and temperance. But most importantly, in terms of Stoicism and also Buddhism and other philosophy, and it's also science-based, there is this concept of equanimity, right? Equanimity is seeing things as not good nor bad, just neutral, right? And I have this concept in my book, Beyond Happy, that's called Equanimity Plus. So it's kind of not good, not bad, but even a little bit more positive than that, right? So we can see things and not react to them. So the concept of not being reactive is what equanimity is, right? You see a situation, instead of going in panic mode, there's a fire, there's something, there's an employee leaving, there's an employee complaining, there is a client that's leaving. So what? Okay, that's information. Let's react calmly and make the best decision and accept the situation and make the best move forward, right?
I had somebody actually say to me, this was a very nice compliment, but at this conference that I attended recently, right, we were in this giant convention center and there were 6,000 people in there. And he came up to me and he was in my group and he said, hey, Mark, if there was a fire in here, right, out of all the people in our group, like, I would listen to you, I would go to you and I would see, and I found, like, I was like, wow, that's like really nice to hear. But I also wonder, like, why? What makes,
Because you look like a firefighter. That's why.
I look like a firefighter, exactly. But what is it like? What are the psychological qualities of a person that makes you feel comfort, right, in a time of danger with them, right? If there was a fire, if you were in a crowded theater and there was a fire, what type of person would you look to, right, to orient yourself in that situation? If there was danger, it'd be somebody who would be calm, not nonchalant, like, oh, whatever, it's a fire, but it's somebody who is not like freaking out, like all over the place. But still, it's like, guys, like, let's stay calm, right? This is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to follow this, who says it with conviction and with certainty, right? And just like Steve Jobs, they have that really compelling North Star. The North Star is we have to survive, right? And we're not going to survive if we panic, if we start flailing around doing crazy things. We're not going to survive. We will survive if we remain calm, right? And if we stay rational and follow these steps. So I think that is a form of being selectively reactive to your emotions.
Exactly. We talked about reactivity, and the better word, if you want to, there's a situation, you don't want to react, you want to respond, right? You want to reflect and respond, not just react. And that actually, we talked about like trusting someone with fire, trusting someone with employee status or partnership status or client, or right. So leaders, their main goal and function is not just to manage, it's to build trust. And by not having this reactivity and calm response, that's actually one of the main ways that you build trust. I do have a book to share with you and the audience, Mark. I do have lots of books I love to read. So Alfredo and our marketing team, which did a great job doing the podcast. Shout out to Alfredo. And you can see him in the marketing team in our yearly recap of last year. Will help us out today to showcase this calm leadership, right? So that's what we're talking about. We have tools at Awe Digital Wellness to help create this calm leadership. But if you want to read more about this, I found this book from Patrick Kozier. It's very recent, and it's talking about staying grounded, staying in control, and staying the course, right? So those are the concepts that we've been talking about. And he delved a bit more into it. If we want to go, I suggest you guys, if you want to look for this, it's on Google Scholar. You can also purchase it. But chapter 1 talks about confronting feelings that that are not calm, and then adapting the feeling, like you said, Mark, right? How can we adapt the situation? And the later phrase is how to lead people with humanity and understanding, active listening, compassion, right? Not just empathy, because again, I talk about this in my book, the difference between empathy and compassion. Everyone says empathy is amazing. No, it's not. Compassion is better. And if you want to find out more, ask me or look for my book. But compassion and understanding, active listening helps lead people with that human factor, not just that business focus or that goal focus, right? And then how can we be maturing in leadership, right? What does that mean? And I've been a leader for many years and even decades. How can we still be maturing and being better leaders every day, every week, every month? Any feedback so far, Mark? And we can go to the next slide or caption.
I think maturity is a big part of it, right? And I think it comes from experience. I even had a term come up in my mind as you're talking, the leadership nervous system, right? It's not falling captive to amygdala hijack, for example. Leaders have hundreds of decisions to make daily, right? And sometimes we're tasked with doing something really difficult, like public speaking, or having to let an employee go, or having like a conflict with an employee, somebody who's upset, for example. And our amygdala, right, fear center of the brain, has a difficult time distinguishing between getting attacked by a tiger and presenting a PowerPoint presentation to a room of CEOs, for example, right? And on the one hand, we kind of know what the answer is. Well, it's experience, it's doing the thing, and then learning to get used to that. But at a deeper level, that means that your brain needs the certainty, right, that you're going to be okay in order to feel calmness. So a good way to, a good way to activate this without perhaps having the experience is to imagine yourself already having exceeded in whatever task that is, exceeding in presenting the PowerPoint presentation, exceeding in handling the conflict. And to do this, you really need a compelling North Star, right? Like Steve Jobs had. There's a lot of ways that you can come up with
And
one.
we can also come up with North Star as purpose and meaning, right? And we're very aware that in the tech age, people are losing meaning and purpose, and that's one of our mission at through all our tools and services. And this podcast is to bring back meaning to your meaningless life, guys. Come on, let's do this. So just to come back to some of this and keep giving some comments, Mark. Just wanted to this was a key principle part of the book that I think is interesting. This book is really quite recent, but so it's been kind of 20 years that I love this. I wanted to approach leadership with empathy, understanding, and kindness. Right? How can we bring more kindness in our leadership? And I think that comes with calm. Right? So when you are reactive, when you're fearful, probably you have less time for compassion and kindness. Right? And he was not confident that that was the right approach because he looked around and saw colleagues of bold, combative, and authoritative people, right? So there's still a lot of people that thinks that that's the way to succeed as a leader in a business, as a salesperson, is to be bold, combative, and I think confident, but combative. I don't think we can. We can foster peace, we can foster calm, and have better outcome than just combative attitudes, right? And I think calm helps perspective, as we talked, in judgment. No drama, just solutions. I say often in the Caribbeans, they say in the French Caribbean, pas ni problème. It means there's no problem. So there's only solutions, right? You don't see things as problems, just as opportunities and solutions, and not fueled by negative emotion. I love the first part of here, right? We talked. Second part is compassionate, not weak, and the first is quiet, but not meek.
I love that.
We can change the slide to the, I think, last or before last component. Yeah, it's the last component. So we talked about the four phase. Now this is a figure that talked about imposter syndrome that arguably is a little bit more felt by women, but men felt it too. How am I going to do this? I think we had some calls earlier today, Mark, about people that feels that they can't do it, right? And what would you respond to someone with imposter syndrome and helping them reduce that?
When somebody feels like they can't do it, they're leaning on a specific story that indicates that that's true, and they're selectively choosing evidence from the past that indicates that they're not capable, right? Which also drives behavior. Like it follows the CBT triangle of automatic thoughts, behaviors, and emotions, right? So if you have imposter syndrome, you fundamentally believe you can't do it, which influences your emotions. You feel negative, which causes you to avoid, right? And it can fall into a spiral. If I were to ask you, what evidence do you need for yourself to feel like there is a resounding 100% certainty that you will be successful? What would you need to believe? What would you need to see, to experience right now to believe that you will 100% be successful in what you're afraid of, in your new role, in a new routine, habit, goal, whatever?
So devil's advocate, people will say, well, I have 0% evidence that I'm going to be successful. I don't know how I'm going to be successful. I don't think I'll be successful.
Well, what's the evidence to suggest that? I would ask, right?
Because I've never done this before, because it seems complicated.
It seems complicated, but if you try, maybe you'll surprise yourself, right? So sometimes you need a push from a different person, could be from a leader, right? Who tells you, right, if you do this, you might fundamentally change your life, right? And how you view yourself. but you have to be willing to take that first step.
And coming back to the Stoics and the seven C's happiness of philosophy. One of them is courage, right? So, are you going to take the leap of faith? We live in 2026. It's probably not going to be a lion that's at the end. You might have a slight shame of failure, but do you have the courage to just do something that you've never done or do it differently? I guess that's the question. Thanks again for the diagram. As you saw, we talked about imposter syndrome. There's also changing from adapt, like react to adapt, as we talked about, and leading with kindness, compassion, right? Maintaining optimism is the last part. There's the 8 P's framework as well. One of them is positivity, and it's not fake positivity or false positivity. It is humility and having optimism and hope about the future, which we know increase happiness and productivity. Having hope that you can achieve, which is the opposite of imposter syndrome and fear, right?
100%, right? I think one of my mentors said to me once, like, do an exercise. If you're watching this, you can do an exercise right now, which maybe in your chair, sit up straight and, put your arms out in front of you, right? And try to move as far as you can to the right, right? And once you can't move anymore, you stop, right? And you move back. Now close your eyes and imagine yourself doing that same thing I just asked you, putting your arms out right in front of you and turning 180 degrees. Even though it's not possible, just imagine yourself turning 180 degrees clockwise around, right? Imagine yourself doing that successfully all the way to the back. And when you open your eyes, put your arms out again. And this time, really try to do what you just saw in your mind. And you'll find that you'll push yourself just a little bit further than what you did the first time. You'll find that even though you didn't get to the 180 degrees, you still were capping yourself the first time that you tried to twist around and you said, okay, this is the furthest that I can go. Oftentimes, it is not the furthest you can go. It's a limit that you're putting on yourself. And it's a limit you're putting on yourself. You're putting safe guardrails to protect yourself in a certain way. So the compelling thing here is that if you develop that vision for yourself, you can often, and it has to be a crazy vision, you can push yourself much further than you ever thought was realistically possible.
Well, I think that's what we've done so far at Digital Wellness. We've put yourself way faster and further than we originally taught as leaders, Mark. And again, thank you for that, and thank you for all the team supporting our leadership and our common goal of bringing calm, happiness, and mental well-being and wellness to the world. Any thoughts about confusing availability with effectiveness? Leaders trying to feel that they always have to be on, always available, always there, working so much. But is that really effective?
I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago, right? Working harder all the time is not necessarily going to equate to you being more effective or productive in what you're doing, right? I also think even nowadays on LinkedIn, I see a lot of people who are like virtue signaling almost, or like, look how much I'm working. Like I work, then family, then gym. It's like, I even saw a post of a guy, he was like, look, I have a 10-hour flight and that's the best hack on the flight is to spend the entire flight working. Look how much I'm working. It's like they're signaling like, hey, I'm so cool because I'm working so much. It's like,
why don't you look out the window and look at the beautiful sky and cities, right? Yeah.
It's like I have to be seen working all the time because that somehow equates to a higher value. It means that I'm more valuable because I'm working harder. It's like, no, bullshit. Like, who cares? There's
Yeah.
literally a subreddit called LinkedIn Lunatics of people just like taking screenshots. Like anybody who's watching should check it out. But screenshotting like these crazy posts of people talking about like, hey, I proposed to my wife, and this is 5 B2B sales lessons I learned from proposing to my wife over the weekend. It's like come on, guys, like you're really that is so artificial and like so obviously like trying to get something, like signaling that like it's just LinkedIn is one of the only platforms that does that. And I think coming back to the original point, it's when people will sense inauthenticity very quickly.
We're wired for that, actually.
Yes, 100%.
And same thing with AI. People figure out, oh, this is AI written. Oh, this is AI made. This right. And I saw a LinkedIn post as well about like people are actually looking to see if you make mistake on your LinkedIn post now, because it signals that if you made a typo or something, it's not AI, right? So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, so they like it more if you make like a typo.
Yeah.
Interesting. You had a job, like didn't we have like a job applicant recently who like used AI and you immediately cast them off because you're like, no, nobody who uses AI like was going to take the job seriously.
Yeah, exactly. In their kind of email response, it was kind of obviously Gen AI. But yeah, I mean, we can set those boundaries and say like we want to work with people who are authentic, and I think that's a human want and need. Actually, that's what we're realizing with all this social media. Yeah, okay, the girl, the person looks good on the whatever filter that they're using on Instagram or
Right.
TikTok, but do you feel that it's really maybe not real, right? So yeah, I think it's better to be able to feel that we're dealing with people that are real, and then that also helps trust in the organization, outside the organization.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
It brings me to another good point. Something that I've learned in my leadership role at all is transparency and vulnerability, right? Telling the team, hey, I'm not as experienced as this. I'm here to also learn from you guys. Here's what I'm good at. Here's what I'm not good at. And being very open. And I think your team will respect you a lot more if you're open and transparent with them about that.
100%, Mark. And again, as a parent, I have a 15-year-old, soon to be 25 years old, that I always tell them, even as a leader, as in the family in this case, and we talk also a lot to parents and schools about their challenges with tech and other things. How can we also make sure that we're learning from our employees or direct reports or junior staff, right? We just onboarded a new person in the tech team, and our tech leader just mentioned, hey, he caught something that I didn't. He taught me something, right? So the same thing with my child or our children. Are you learning from your children every day, right? My boy used to say, oh, I'm learning so much, you know so much, you read all those books, you know about this, you try to answer things. Well, if I don't, we're going to find out together with curiosity. And by the way, I'm always learning something from you. Might not be 50%, but I'm always learning from anyone, someone in my team, a client, a homeless person. You can learn from anyone if you have that curiosity. Again, one of the 7 C's, and open-mindedness to learn, not just want to teach or execute or tell people that you're better or that you have an ego, right?
100%. It is, a lot of it is ego protection, right? Deflecting the blame or struggling with failure, all of these things that are going to put up barriers to you connecting more with others, right? Contrary to what a lot of
Mark is going to come back, and just to mention, all this talks about like awareness, right? And this is what we do at AWE in general. AWE stands for the beautiful word awe, the feeling of being happy, and also awareness, wellness, and enjoyment. So we're trying to raise awareness with these podcasts, and raise awareness not only about those topics, but about personal awareness. Are you aware of your thoughts, of your emotions? Come join some of our resets if you want to increase your awareness. And let's see if Mark is back with some further comments.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, sorry about that. The camera decides to shut off on its own sometimes. But I was saying that, a lot of ego protection comes down to deflecting blame, struggling with failure, and seeing feedback as like an attack versus just being purely data, right? And this can often cause leaders to go spinning and think like, what if, right? What if it went a different way, or having paralysis and not taking action on that? So learning to disconnect from the ego, it's very difficult. You don't necessarily need to go down to Mexico and take ayahuasca to disconnect from the ego. Like, you can do this.
Aren't we planning to do this in March, Mark?
Company outing. Yeah. Company outing to ayahuasca trip to Mexico. But I think it's becoming acutely aware of certain emotional patterns that drive your behavior. It's difficult. It's not easy, right? But it's possible. It's possible.
And it starts with awareness, and then you can have action and changes and repetition and habits building. And we're trying to help people with coaching services and others, and with our Lumi AI, which is quite good to help you change your habits in the new year, as we mentioned last time. Check out, we're over 100 users since 30 days on our Lumi. So thanks for all the users. Keep checking out and interacting with Lumi, talking about the 7 C's, 8 P's, and how to change your habit and increase your awareness. That's Lumi at AWE digitalwellness.com. Try Lumi on the tab there. It's free, so enjoy it. Going back to, what can leader do to stay calm, and how can we reset their stress and regulation? What are some of your suggestions and tools?
So one of the first ones is to challenge automatic thoughts, right? To ask yourself, is this fear-based? What assumption am I making, right? What else could be true? So leaders replace catastrophe scripts with strategic thinking. And again, it's not easy, but it's possible. And one of the ways that you can do this is to what a lot of psychologists call name, tame, and choose, right? Instead of reacting automatically to a certain emotion, you can say, I feel tension. I feel tension in my chest. Where do you feel it? Does it feel in my stomach? Feel it in my neck? Those are the most common spots. My body wants to shut down. You can tame it. I choose to stay curious. So leaders will feel the emotion fully, but they don't act from it, right? You can feel it, but not necessarily ascribe a negative emotion to it.
And you can feel it without letting it take control, right? And that's the regulation. It's the same thing with thoughts. You can be aware of your thought, and you don't have to listen to your stupid thoughts. You don't have to listen to your limiting beliefs, right? And that takes awareness and practice. And Mark and I are quite good at that, although we also fail, being vulnerable and human.
Yes.
But in general, as we're talking, mainly about leaders today, and whatever position you're doing, even if you're a janitor, you can be a leader doing whatever it is. And no picks on janitor, it could be whatever job, florist, or a CEO, which is probably a boring job, right, Mark? Whatever leader capacity you are, this ability to regulate and to reset is a competitive advantage, right?
100%. It is 100% a competitive advantage. But it is a competitive advantage because it's not easy, right? It's not easy to do. And I come back to, again, some of those qualities. Leaders, they will prioritize discipline over their mood, right? They will implement time blocks, phone boundaries, rituals, sleep hygiene, all this stuff. If they know they're going to perform better when they get 8 hours of sleep, they will make sure that they get to bed at 10 p.m. and wake up at 6 a.m., right? You don't have to attach a certain identity to yourself and say, like, I can't do it, they can, right? All of this is fluid. It's teachable. It's skill-based. It's habit-based. right? And over time, it just takes experience. So
Go ahead.
my last point is that think of this as like values driven action. So values are the compass when emotions are stormy. And just ask yourself, who do I want to be right now? What decision reflects my highest standard? Right?
Very
That'll
good.
get you through the
Point.
storm.
And I wanted to look at the flip side, right? So all those things that we talk about today, that we're trying to give tools for leaders and all types of leaders that we mentioned. What is the cost if you don't do it? Like, what if you don't regulate? If you react, what would be the cost for that? Of that?
Yeah, obviously damaging relationships with colleagues at work, disappointing others, perhaps the success of the company depends upon it, a lot of things, right? So a leader is able to set an emotional thermostat for themselves, right? Dysregulated leader is often going to result in fear, having fear-based responses, silence, a lot more mistakes. Regulated leader is going to give you clarity and trust. So it has nothing to do, or there is some, less to do with intelligence and more to do with emotional regulation than anything else. And
Right.
your team is actually going to mirror you the more that you imbibe some of these qualities. It'll be a sort of emotional contagion at work. So this is actually
Will
happening.
everyone cry when I listen to research as well? Are we gonna cry
Everybody's going to
all
cry.
in awe?
Everybody's going to cry. Exactly. But this is mainly responsible because of mirror neurons, right? And when somebody is engaging in actions that you find positive, that you like, you unconsciously tend to mirror those actions, right? So you, as a leader, when you learn to get your own house in order, you will help the people around you at work as well. And you
Great.
will, yeah.
I just wanted to give again a chance, and it's always possible during, but we like to also have small segments specifically to prompt people with courage to send some questions and comments. As we know, we have
Please do.
quite a few live audience member, and if you're watching or listening to after that, you can still reach out to us at any time with questions and answer through our website at awedigitalwellness.com, through our LinkedIn page and our socials. But if you have something live that you want us to respond right now, we'll give you a minute or two, and then let's get ready for some final thoughts on how we can give actionable tools and suggestions for leaders to be a little bit more calm, regulated, and regularly reset their thoughts and emotions so that they can respond and not react.
100%.
So, Mark, any thoughts on what tools that people can have? Of course, we have some at AWE, and then there's some other tools that you might want to
There's
suggest.
some practical ones that people can use right now. So one of the biggest productivity killers today, is task switching, multitasking, as a lot of people call it. So monotasking, right? Deciding for the next hour, 2 hours, that you're only going to focus on this one task is a huge productivity hack, but also choosing to leave 60 to 120 seconds between tasks, right?
You should have told me before, because I was doing email during doing this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also doing breath work, journaling, shaking out the tension. If you feel the tension, if you feel butterflies in your stomach, do something physical, get up, jump, listen to some music that you like, right? Your emotions are often dependent on your state, right? Your state influences your emotions. So if you want to influence your emotions, you have to influence your state. And that's something you can do consciously. So give yourself decision windows as well. Decide at set times, not in the moment, and that will protect you from making emotional choices, right? And having some sort of tech discipline. Your phone should stay outside the meetings. or you can get the All Smarter phone. It's also going to help you regulate your emotions and your impulses. Um, Having email windows when you specifically are going to email people, no Slack after a certain time period, and asking yourself, doing it like a weekly reflection where you ask yourself, what triggered me this week? What belief guided me with this week? What would a future version of me do next time? Right? All
And
these
you
things.
can do weekly, daily, bi-weekly.
Exactly.
We have a question from the audience, which is, what is Lumi? Lumi is a secret weapon that we're going to use against Venezuela and all the flows of the. No, I'm joking.
Yes. Delta Force Lumi.
Go. You want to start explaining to the audience? And thanks for the question. What or who is Lumi? What I think
Yes.
it's a what, right?
What is Lumi? Lumi is an AI chatbot that our team of our really diligent team here at AWE has been working on for the last couple of months. An AI chatbot designed to help leaders, right? Not only, but leaders and lots of different people regulate their emotions in a much more healthy way, and also act as a coach that is available to you 24/7 on the go, right? You can find Lumi on our website and you can access Lumi. It's free, right? And you can use it at any time.
Yeah, there's a free download if you're using WhatsApp, or you can chat on it on the web. And we will have more AI coaches, scientifically evidence-based, approved, with some safety guards to try. Very, very good comments so far from the users. I've tried it before it was released. I'm still using it. I'm still asking it sometimes
Mhm.
things, and yeah, the response are quite good. I would listen to Lumi if I were you.
Try it out.
Thanks for that question. If there's any other questions, I know that Mark and I have a long Friday, and maybe some of you also, as leaders, have to go. So we will end it a little bit shorter today. I know Mark and I could talk for hours, and we have done almost 2-hour podcast, but we'll do a short one today. Any closing thoughts, Mark, on the subject?
My closing thoughts, great leadership is not a like ingrained immutable talent. It's something that's trainable, right? It's a matter of skill acquisition.
Yeah.
If you can regulate your inner world, right, you can empower the outer world, essentially. So I would pick one of those self-regulation tools that I mentioned before and try to practice that this week.
And just wanted to reiterate that we're doing those podcasts every Friday live. We'll have more non-live podcasts coming out on our channels, as reels, as special things that our marketing team is doing. Thanks again, team, for doing all the hard work. And just wanted to reiterate for our usual and new listeners that January is the calm month for us. So we're really focusing on some ways to stay calm in the midst of, yes, wars in Venezuela and around the world, wars inside companies and inside your family. We know all the families with phone conflicts, that is kind of a form of war. And how can we talk about positive and calm and peace and not just conflict is what we're trying to talk about this month. Thanks for listening again, and we'll see you next week. Reach out to us anytime on our socials and on our LinkedIn.
See everyone. Have a nice weekend.